The snap of her fingers sliced through the morning's chatter like a whip. "Hey, yeah, you," she said, pointing at me with her acrylic-tipped finger. "Refill this, and maybe try smiling while you do it." I froze mid-step, coffee pot hovering over a half-filled mug. The woman sat in booth 3, the one by the window, where the morning sun hit just right for selfies. She had that Instagram-perfect look. Designer sunglasses perched on her head, phone angled like a mirror, and a smile that didn't reach her eyes. It was too early for this nonsense. "Ma'am, if you want a refill, I'll get it in just a moment. I've got another order to finish." Her lips parted in a mock gasp. "Excuse me?" she said, like I just told her the earth was round and she didn't buy it. Before I could respond, she turned toward the kitchen window and called out, "Kyle, your waitress is rude." My stomach dropped. Kyle, the manager, and her boyfriend. He pushed through the kitchen door a few seconds later, wiping his hands on a towel, that easy smile on his face that had once made me think he was one of the good ones. "Everything okay out here, babe?" "Not really," she said sweetly. "Your waitress has an attitude." I took a deep breath. "She snapped her fingers at me," I said quietly, "and called me over like a dog." Kyle's eyes flickered toward her, then back to me. "You probably misunderstood." I felt the flush of anger rise from my chest to my ears. "I didn't misunderstand, Kyle. You can check the cameras if you want." The woman laughed, a low, mocking sound. "Oh, relax, sweetheart. I was just joking. Don't be so sensitive." That was it. That was the word. Sensitive. The word men like Kyle and women like her love to use to make you second-guess your own dignity. I forced a smile. Joking's supposed to be funny. That wasn't. For a moment, the diner went silent. Even the clatter of dishes from the kitchen seemed to fade. Kyle's jaw tightened, and I could practically see the conflict flickering behind his eyes. He wasn't going to defend me. Not against her. "Go restock the pie case," he said finally, his voice clipped. There it was, the power move. Dismissal disguised as direction. I turned and walked away, my hands shaking only once I was out of sight. By the time my shift ended, my phone buzzed with a notification from the scheduling app. I opened it without thinking and felt my stomach drop. 12 hours. That was it. I'd gone from 38 hours a week to 12. I stared at the screen, disbelief tightening in my chest. This had to be a mistake. Me. "Hey, Kyle, my schedule looks off. Only 12 hours this week. Is that right?" The reply came less than a minute later. "Kyle, not a mistake. Think of it as a reset. Maybe next week you'll bring a better attitude." I read it twice, my fingers trembling. It wasn't even subtle. He'd cut my hours because I stood up to his girlfriend, because I hadn't smiled enough while being disrespected. I threw my phone on the couch and pressed my palms against my eyes, fighting the burn of tears. Rent was due in 8 days, my car payment in 10. Reset, he said, like my bills could take a week off too. That night, I opened my laptop and stared at the glowing screen for a long time. Search. Can my boss reduce my hours as punishment? Dozens of articles popped up about retaliation, labor rights, and workplace discrimination. I scrolled, reading every word. The more I read, the angrier I got. He wasn't allowed to do this. Not legally, not ethically. But anger wasn't enough. Not yet. The next morning, I walked into the diner like a ghost in my own life. The place smelled like bacon grease and burnt toast, the same as it always did, but something felt off. The other waitresses avoided eye contact, and Kyle didn't even nod when I clocked in. The girlfriend, Ava, I'd learned, was perched at the counter sipping an iced latte she'd probably made herself with our machine. "Good morning," she chirped in that sugar-coated voice that could rot your teeth. "Kyle said I could help out today." My jaw nearly hit the floor. Help out? She giggled, twirling her straw. "Yeah, I'm shadowing him, to learn about the business. Isn't that cute?" No, it was a health code violation waiting to happen. Customers weren't allowed behind the counter, and definitely not near the food prep area. But Kyle didn't care. He was leaning against the kitchen doorway, watching her like she hung the moon. I wanted to scream. Instead, I grabbed a rag and started wiping down the counter she wasn't supposed to be sitting at. Each swipe was slower than the last, deliberate. My way of keeping calm. Then Ava reached over and tapped the coffee machine with a long, glittered nail. You should clean that better. It looks gross. I didn't move. You're not supposed to touch that, I said quietly. Kyle's voice came from behind me. Brooke, don't talk to her like that. I turned slowly. Like what? Like she's doing something wrong. I laughed. I couldn't help it. It came out sharp, like glass breaking. Kyle, she's behind the counter. That's against policy. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. She's my guest. Don't make this into a thing. Oh, it was already a thing. By the time my shift ended, I was shaking with fury. I clocked out, grabbed my bag, and walked straight to the alley behind the diner. The cool air hit my face like reality. I leaned against the wall and exhaled. This wasn't about a bad day anymore. This was about respect. I pulled out my phone, opened the Notes app, and started typing. Every word, every incident, date, time, what was said, who was there. If Kyle wanted a war, I was going to bring the paperwork. The next morning, when I arrived for my short, miserable 4-hour shift, I noticed something new near the register. A spiral-bound guest comment book. I'd never seen it before. I flipped it open when no one was watching. 3 new complaints, all from customers describing the brownette waitress with an attitude. The handwriting? Same looped A's, same hearts above the eyes. Ava. She wasn't just rude, she was trying to build a fake case against me. My phone's camera clicked 3 times in quick succession. Evidence secured. I didn't know how yet, but I'd make sure both of them regretted underestimating me. And this time, I wouldn't be the one apologizing. The next few days blurred together into a haze of burnt coffee, forced smiles, and quiet fury. Every time I walked past Kyle and Ava, I felt their laughter stick to my skin like grease. She was still shadowing him, wobbling around in heels that didn't belong anywhere near a kitchen, pretending to take notes while she whispered in his ear. The other waitresses avoided looking at me like eye contact alone might drag them into my mess. I didn't blame them. Nobody wanted to be next. But what they didn't know was that I was already done playing nice. That night, I sat on my couch with a cup of tea gone cold and reread my notes. 6 separate incidents in less than a week, each one a little more obvious than the last. Reduced hours, public humiliation, and fake customer complaints. It wasn't just petty, it was retaliation. I had everything time-stamped and photographed, but I needed something bigger, something undeniable. So I started digging. Our scheduling system logged every change Kyle made down to the minute. I knew the system better than he did. He never bothered to learn the admin shortcuts. When he left his office for a smoke break, I slipped behind the counter, opened the system, and pulled up the modification log. My pulse hammered, so hard I could feel it in my throat. There it was. Entry dated 2 hours after the coffee incident. User, K.H. Hansen. Action, reduced employee Brooke Sanders, weekly hours from 38 to 12. Notes, performance adjustment pending review. My jaw clenched. Performance adjustment, cute. I took a quick photo of the screen and backed out before he came back. Proof number 1. The next few days I made myself invisible. I smiled when I needed to, nodded at customers, and kept my voice calm no matter how badly Ava baited me. She was like a child with a new toy. She wanted a reaction. I wasn't giving her one. Not yet. Friday morning, she strutted in wearing a pink blazer that probably cost more than my paycheck. She walked straight up to the register and said, "Brooke, could you grab me a fresh croissant from the kitchen? The display ones look old." My jaw twitched. "Those are from this morning." She smiled, sweet as poison. "Then you won't mind getting a new one." I glanced toward Kyle's office. He was watching, pretending to look busy. Of course. This was another test. I plastered on a fake smile. "Sure, Ava, I'll get it for you." I walked into the kitchen, opened the door to the walk-in, and pulled out my phone. Record. I walked back out, holding the camera low but angled toward her. "Here you go. Fresh as it gets." She rolled her eyes. "Finally. You know, Kyle says you used to be good at your job before you got all moody." I didn't flinch. "Kyle says a lot of things." Her smile faltered. "Excuse me?" "You heard me." She huffed, tossed her hair, and muttered something about insubordination. But it was too late. I had the whole thing on video. Her taunting me staying calm. No trace of rudeness. Perfect. That night I sent everything, photos, videos, and timestamps, to a folder labeled "Just in Case." Then I emailed it to myself, my sister, and one more person, the regional manager, Lisa Hargrove. I didn't hit send yet, not yet. I wanted to watch them squirm first. Saturday morning, the diner was packed. Kyle was short-staffed. Half the team had called out, and the other half was late. I moved like I'd been born with a tray in my hand. 4 tables at once, coffee refills, orders out in record time. Even the regulars noticed. "Brooke, you're holding this place together," one of them said, slipping me a $5 tip with a wink. Ava was behind the counter again, trying to work the register. She couldn't even open the drawer without calling Kyle for help. Around noon, a customer complained that her card had been double charged. Ava swore it wasn't her fault. But I saw it. I saw her punch the wrong button twice. And then, when the woman left angry, she muttered, "Guess Brooke forgot to process it right." I froze. "I didn't even touch it," I said quietly. Kyle appeared instantly. "What's going on?" "Your waitress messed up a payment," Ava said, flipping her hair. "Again." "That's not true," I said. "Check the register log." He looked from her to me, his jaw tightening. "Brooke, take a break. Now." "I didn't. Now." I took off my apron, my heart pounding, and stepped outside. The air felt heavy, humid, like a storm was coming. And maybe it was. 10 minutes later, when I came back, the register screen was off. Kyle's laptop was open beside it. I caught a glimpse of the screen before he shut it. Something about a termination notice draft. My stomach turned to stone. They were planning to fire me. I walked past him, pretending not to notice, and went straight to the storage closet. My hands were shaking, but my voice was steady when I whispered into my phone. "Voice memo, record." I placed the phone behind a stack of menus near the office door. Then I waited. I didn't have to wait long. 30 minutes later, their voices drifted from the office. "Ava, she's gonna lose it when she sees that termination form." "Kyle, yeah, but we'll make it look like she caused the scene. HR will back me up if I say she's been unstable." Ava laughed. "Perfect. Maybe she'll cry. That'll really sell it." I stood frozen, barely breathing. The words felt like acid. Then Ava added, "After she's gone, you'll have weekends free again. Just us." I bit down so hard on my lip I tasted blood. That was all I needed. I waited until they left for lunch, then slipped into the office, grabbed my phone, and stopped the recording. 8 solid minutes of audio. Every word clear as day. I sent a file straight to my email, the folder, and the cloud. Triple backup. By the end of the shift, I was calm. Too calm. Kyle called me over before closing. "Hey, Brooke," he said, putting on his fake boss smile. "Can we talk tomorrow morning before your shift? Just want to check in." "Sure," I said, matching his tone. "Should I bring anything?" He grinned. "Just your badge." My badge, the code word for termination meeting. I smiled right back. "Perfect. I'll be ready." That night I didn't sleep. I drafted my own email, subject line, "Hostile workplace retaliation and evidence attached." I attached everything: screenshots, photos, video, and the audio recording. My cursor hovered over the send button until sunrise. Then, as the light crept through my blinds, I whispered, "Let's see who resets who," and clicked send. The next morning, the diner looked the same, smelled the same too, like burnt bacon and cheap coffee, but everything felt different. The air buzzed with tension I could almost taste. I showed up 10 minutes early, hair tied tight, uniform pressed, face calm. The kind of calm that comes right before a storm. Kyle was already waiting in his office, pretending to scroll through his emails when I knocked. "Come in," he said without looking up. I stepped inside, closed the door, and took the seat across from him. His desk looked too clean, like he'd staged it for a scene. Clipboard perfectly centered, manila folder labeled Brooke Sanders sitting right on top. He finally looked up and gave me that managerial half smile that used to fool me. Not anymore. "So," he began, clasping his hands together, "I wanted to have a quick talk about your recent performance and, attitude." My heart beat steady. "My attitude?" "Yeah," he said smoothly. "There's been some feedback, both from customers and team members, that you've been, let's say, difficult to work with lately." He paused like he expected me to defend myself. I didn't. He shifted in his chair, and with that in mind, management's decided to move forward with termination, effective today. He slid the folder toward me. "You can read over this and sign the acknowledgement form." I looked down at the paper, then back up at him. That's it? He smiled again, that smug little smirk that screamed, I won. That's it. I leaned back in my chair and crossed my arms. So you're saying this has nothing to do with your girlfriend snapping her fingers at me like I'm her servant? His face stiffened. Brooke, let's stay professional. Oh, I'm being professional, I said quietly, just making sure I understand what kind of workplace this is, because I have everything documented. He laughed, a little too loudly. Documented? Yeah, I said, meeting his eyes. Screenshots of my schedule changes, photos of fake customer complaints, written in your girlfriend's handwriting, by the way, and a nice little audio recording of you two planning to fire me. His smirk fell off his face like someone had flipped a switch. You recorded? Everything, I said, and sent it to corporate last night. The color drained from his face. You, what? Lisa Hargrove, regional manager? You might know her. She's probably reading it right now. He opened his mouth, closed it, then stood up and paced behind his desk. Brooke, you can't just... Do you realize how serious that is? I tilted my head. Oh, I do. Retaliation's illegal, remember? Cutting my hours after I reported harassment, then faking complaints to build a paper trail. You should have thought about that before you hit save on my schedule. He rubbed his forehead, muttering something under his breath. I watched him squirm, enjoying every second of it. Then his phone buzzed. He looked down, read something, and his expression went from panic to pure dread. Who is it? I asked. He swallowed hard. Lisa, he said quietly. I smiled. You should answer that. He didn't. Instead, he sat back down and tried to regain his composure. Look, Brooke, we can work something out. Maybe add your hours back. No need to make this ugly. Ugly? I repeated. You and Ava made it ugly when you lied to corporate, Kyle. His phone buzzed again, this time longer. He silenced it, avoiding my eyes. I stood up slowly. If there's nothing else, I'll go ahead and clock out. I'm assuming I'm done here, right? He didn't answer. I turned toward the door, and that's when I saw her, Ava, leaning in the doorway, arms crossed, expression smug, at least until she noticed the look on his face. What's going on? She asked. Kyle didn't respond. Kyle? Her tone sharpened. Why does she look so calm? I grinned. Because I already sent everything to corporate. Everything what? I took a step closer. The evidence, the fake complaints, the audio, the hours you made him cut. Oh, and the part where you both plotted to make me cry in my termination meeting? That one's my favorite. Her smirk cracked. Oh, and don't worry, I added, I CC'd the labor board just for fun. Her eyes went wide. You didn't? I did. She spun toward Kyle. You said Ava, just stop talking. He snapped. For a second, the silence in that tiny office was deafening. Then Kyle's phone rang again. This time, he had no choice. He picked it up, voice trembling. Hi, Lisa. Yeah, she's here. Pause. His eyes darted to me. Uh-huh. Yes, I understand. Of course. I'll send her your way. He hung up and looked at me like a man walking into his own grave. Lisa wants to talk to you now. Perfect, I said, grabbing my bag. Ava scoffed. You think she's gonna believe you? I looked her straight in the eye. Oh, she already does. She's the one who forwarded me your complaint forms last night. Said they looked suspiciously similar. Her mouth fell open. I walked past her, out of the office, out of the diner, and into the sunlight. My legs shook as I crossed the parking lot, but not from fear. It was adrenaline, the kind that comes after surviving something toxic and realizing you finally turned the tables. 10 minutes later, I was sitting in a quiet conference room at the regional office, watching Lisa scroll through the files on her laptop. She was in her 50s, sharp eyes, no-nonsense energy. She said, "You did the right thing, Brooke. We've had complaints about that location before, but nothing this detailed. This is airtight.
Relief hit me so hard I almost laughed. So what happens now? Lisa smiled slightly. Well, Kyle's suspended pending investigation. As for Ava, she's been banned from the property. Permanently. I nodded slowly, trying to process it. And me? You'll be reinstated. Full hours, new manager, different branch if you want. For the first time in weeks, I felt my chest loosen. Thank you, I said quietly. Lisa closed her laptop. Don't thank me. Thank yourself. Most people wouldn't have the guts to do what you did. I smiled, but it wasn't pride that filled me. It was peace, the kind that comes when you stop letting people walk all over you. As I left the building, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Enjoy your victory while it lasts. No name, but I didn't need one. I knew that tone. Ava. I smirked and replied, already am. But deep down, I knew it wasn't over. Not yet.
By Monday morning, word had spread faster than butter on a hot pancake. The diner was buzzing with whispers when I walked in. Did you hear? Kyle suspended. Ava got banned. Brooke's back full-time. The looks I got were a mix of awe and fear, like I'd done something both heroic and dangerous. Maybe I had. I clocked in, tied my apron, and got to work. The new interim manager, Sam, was a corporate guy. Late 30s, no nonsense, the kind who wore crisp shirts and kept his coffee black. He greeted me with a nod. Brooke, right? That's me. Glad you're still here, he said. We'll be running things by the book now. Music to my ears. By noon, we were swamped. The morning crowd had lingered, and a bus of tourists had rolled in unannounced. I was in the zone. Orders flying, refills seamless, smiles genuine this time. For the first time in weeks, the place actually felt like a diner again, not a circus. Then, halfway through my shift, a hush fell over the room. I looked up from the counter and froze. Ava. Standing in the doorway like she owned the place, sunglasses on, phone in hand, smirk fully loaded. Ma'am, you can't be in here, Sam said immediately, stepping forward. Ava tilted her head. I just came to get my boyfriend's thanks. Your boyfriend? Sam raised an eyebrow. You mean Kyle, the suspended manager? She smiled like it was a challenge. That's the one. Then he can pick up his own things, Sam said firm. You're trespassing. The smirk faltered for a split second before she laughed. Relax, it's just a visit. She took a few slow steps toward the counter, heels clacking. Hi, Brooke. You look confident. Guess you're enjoying all the attention. I kept my tone even. Ava, you need to leave. Oh, come on, she said, leaning forward. Don't act like you're not loving this. Little Miss Victim finally wins one. I set down the coffee pot. You mean the one where your boyfriend tried to fire me illegally? Yeah, it's a good one. Her smile twitched. You think this is over? I don't think, I said quietly. I know. Sam moved between us. That's enough. Brooke, take 5. Ava, you're leaving now. Ava glared at him, muttered something under her breath, and turned to leave, but not before tossing me one last line over her shoulder. Enjoy it while you can. Corporate forgets fast. The door shut behind her, but the chill she left lingered. I exhaled and went out back to breathe. My hands were steady, but my heart wasn't. I knew her type, vindictive, connected, and dangerous when cornered. She wasn't bluffing. Later that night, after my shift, I drove home feeling uneasy. My phone buzzed nonstop from coworkers. She's losing it on social media, posted some rant about toxic women ruining men's careers. Tagged the diner, too. Great. Just what I needed. I pulled over and checked her profile. Sure enough, there it was. A long, dramatic post full of half-truths and lies, painting herself and Kyle as victims of corporate cancel culture. Hundreds of comments, most from people who didn't know either of us. Some were sympathetic, some were cruel, but a few were curious. Wait, wasn't that the manager who got suspended for retaliation? I heard the waitress had proof. Maybe she should post it. I didn't comment. I didn't have to. The truth had its own way of crawling to the surface. Still, I screenshotted everything, just in case. 2 days later, I got a call from Lisa, the regional manager. Brooke, I wanted to update you personally, she said. The investigation wrapped up. My stomach tightened. And? Kyle's been terminated, she said, effective immediately. His actions violated multiple policies. HR is finalizing the report. For a second,
I couldn't even speak. Terminated? Yes, Lisa said. And as for Ava, she's been served a trespass notice. If she shows up again, call the police. Relief washed through me like a warm tide. Thank you, I said softly. You earned it, she said. But Brooke, off the record, he's been calling around, trying to find another job in management. You might get a reference call. If you do, let me know. After the call, I sat there in silence, staring at the steam curling from my coffee. I'd won. On paper, at least. But something in my gut said it wasn't over. People like Kyle didn't just disappear, they regrouped. And people like Ava, they didn't forgive. The following week, everything settled back into rhythm. The diner was peaceful again. Customers joked with me, coworkers smiled like old times. I was even starting to sleep through the night again. Until Wednesday. I walked into the break room, opened my locker, and froze. Inside, tucked between my uniform and purse, was an envelope. No name, no return address. Just one word on the front, scrawled in messy ink. Karma. My pulse spiked. I looked around. Empty. I opened it slowly. Inside was a printed photo of me standing outside the diner 2 nights ago, phone in hand, laughing with a coworker. The caption written in marker, "Smiley now, won't last long." My throat dried. I looked again, but no signature. But that handwriting, that looping A, Ava. It had to be. I slipped the photo back into the envelope and shoved it in my bag, my mind racing. She'd followed me. Or someone had for her. Either way, this wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was personal. That night, I double-checked my locks, pulled the curtains tight, and set my phone camera facing the front door, just in case. Sleep didn't come easy. Every sound made my heart jump. Somewhere between 2 and 3 a.m., I finally drifted off. Then, buzz. My phone vibrated on the nightstand. A message from an unknown number. I opened it, heart pounding. Nice house. That was it. 2 words. But it was enough to make my blood run cold. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. By the time the sun rose, I was done being scared. I was angry. I stared at that message, "nice house," and felt something in me harden. Enough was enough. I'd already been humiliated, threatened, and stalked. Not anymore. I wasn't going to be the scared waitress hiding behind her curtains. I was going to end this. The first thing I did was call Lisa, my regional manager. I explained everything, the letter, the photo, the text. Her voice sharpened immediately. "Brooke, that's serious. You need to contact the police." "I was hoping you'd say that," I said. Within an hour, an officer was at my door. He was calm, professional, asked for every detail. I handed him the envelope and showed the text. He looked at it, frowning. "You have any idea who this might be?" "I do," I said. "And I have proof." They took the evidence, filed a report, and assured me they'd follow up. That should have been the end of it. But life doesn't tie itself up neatly with a bow, does it? That afternoon, I went to work like normal, smile plastered on, apron tied, pretending everything was fine. Sam noticed the tension immediately. "You okay?" he asked quietly. "Just tired," I lied. "You don't look tired," he said, eyes narrowing. "You look hunted." I forced a laugh. "I've just had a long week." Halfway through the lunch rush, I caught sight of someone across the street through the diner window. A black car, windows tinted, engine running, just sitting there. My stomach twisted. Every time I glanced up, it was still there, watching. I told Sam. He didn't hesitate. "Call the police again." I did. This time they arrived while the car was still parked, but the second the siren came in at earshot, it pulled away. Fast. The officers tried to chase it, but by the time they reached the end of the block, it was gone. Plate obscured. No trace. That night, I didn't go home. I stayed with my friend Marcy, another waitress from the diner. She lived in a small apartment downtown with 2 mini plants and the softest couch in the world. "You're safe here," she said, pressing a mug of tea into my hands. She's unhinged. This isn't just drama anymore. Then she'll slip up, Marcy said confidently. People like that always do. And she was right. 3 days later, she slipped up. I was at work when Lisa walked in, flanked by 2 men in suits. Corporate. The whole diner froze. She walked straight to the back, and I knew instantly. Something had broken. 20 minutes later, she came out, expression unreadable, and motioned for me to follow. In the office, she shut the door. "You might want to sit down," she said. My stomach dropped. What happened? She slid her phone across the desk. Ava made a mistake. On the screen was a screenshot from Ava's Instagram, an account she'd set to private, but someone had sent it to corporate anonymously. The photo was unmistakable, that same shot of me outside the diner with the caption, "Smiling now, won't last long." But this time, she'd bragged on the comments. When you have friends who know where she lives, it's easy. Lisa folded her arms. Police have that now, and so do Lee. She's facing harassment and trespassing charges. I blinked, stunned. And Kyle? He tried to deny everything, but it turned out he was helping her. The car outside your place, rented under his name. It felt like the air was being sucked out of the room. All the fear, the anger, the nights of not sleeping, it all came flooding out as I sat there, shaking. He was watching me? He was following orders, but not anymore. He's been arrested. The diner became a small-town legend overnight. Customers whispered, regulars congratulated me quietly like I'd survived something sacred. Sam called me bulletproof and told everyone to leave me the biggest tips. Still, even after they were both charged, even after the restraining orders were in place, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. I'd walk to my car, keys between my fingers, heart hammering. But slowly, day by day, that fear began to fade. Weeks turned into months. I got promoted to assistant manager. The diner became busier than ever. People came not just for the pancakes, but because they liked the story of the girl who stood up. It was weird being a local muth, but I wasn't complaining. Then one quiet evening, I was closing up alone. Lights dim, chairs stacked, register balanced. I turned off the neon sign and grabbed my coat. My phone buzzed. Unknown number again. My heart stuttered, but I answered anyway. "Hello?" Silence. Then static, and a low voice, almost a whisper. "You think karma's done?" I froze. That voice, I'd know it anywhere. Kyle. Before I could respond, the line went dead. I stood there in the dark diner, the hum of the refrigerator the only sound. Outside, the street was empty. Calm. Maybe it was a prank. Maybe it was real. But one thing was certain. He hadn't learned a damn thing. So I locked the door, took a slow breath, and whispered to the empty room, more to myself than anyone. Then I guess karma's got one more shift to work. The phone call replayed in my mind all night like a broken record. "You think karma's done?" His voice crawled under my skin, cold and smug, like he still believed he held power over me. But this time, he was wrong. He'd already lost everything: his job, his reputation, his control. And I was done being afraid. If he wanted karma, I'd give him front row seats. The next morning, I walked into the diner calm, focused, like nothing had happened. But inside, a plan was already forming. I'd learned something over the past few months. Kyle and Ava didn't understand accountability. They only understood exposure. The same way they tried to humiliate me was how they'd finally destroy themselves. I started by calling Officer Ramirez, the detective who handled my case. I told him about the call, the voice, and the static. He frowned. "You're sure it was him?" 100%. "Then we can track it," he said, "but we'll need to set something up." He's careful, but everyone slips when they think they're untouchable. Perfect. That night, I went home and made sure every light in my house was off, except for one, the kitchen window. I sat at the table, pretending to scroll my phone, but really, I was waiting. A patrol car was parked a block away, out of sight, and my phone was recording every sound. Hours passed. Then, around midnight, I heard the crunch of tires on gravel. Headlights flashed, then went dark. I didn't move. Footsteps approached, slow, confident. Then the faint click of a camera. He was taking pictures. Again. I waited until I heard him circle the porch before I picked up my phone and whispered, "He's here." Within seconds, the distant hum of the patrol car came alive. Lights, siren. I watched from the window as a man bolted from the shadows toward the street. Too late. 2 officers tackled him before he even hit the sidewalk. I walked outside, robe tied tight, and saw him on the ground. Kyle, disheveled, furious. "You set me up. You ruined my life." I stared at him, unflinching. "No, Kyle, you did that yourself." They cuffed him and dragged him to the car. He kept yelling, every excuse, every denial, but I didn't hear a word. I just felt free. Finally. 2 days later, I got the call from Ramirez. He's being charged with harassment, stalking, and violation of a restraining order. He won't be bothering you again. I let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. "Thank you," I said quietly. "You earned your peace," he replied. The news spread fast. The same way people had whispered about my humiliation months ago, now they whispered about my strength. Customers called me the girl who caught her stalker. Corporate gave me a commendation for courage. The diner even held a small celebration. Coffee, laughter, flowers. It wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about closure. Weeks passed and life finally started to feel normal again. No more strange cars, no more late-night calls, just peace. I'd even started taking night classes, business management, ironically. Maybe one day I'd open my own place, a diner where no one ever felt powerless. But fate has a funny sense of timing. One evening, while closing up, Sam walked over with a letter in his hand. "This came for you." My heart skipped. But when I opened it, it wasn't a threat. It was a simple piece of paper, handwritten, shaky. "You were right. I lost everything. I'm sorry." No signature, but I knew it was him. For a long moment, I just stared at it. The old me might have ripped it up, cursed, felt vindicated, but instead I folded it neatly and tucked it in my apron. Not as a trophy, but as proof. Proof that standing up, even when you're terrified, matters. Proof that karma always clocks in, eventually. That night, as I turned off the diner lights and stepped outside, the neon sign flickered one last time before going dark. I smiled, locked the door, and whispered to the empty street, "Shift's over." And for the first time in months, maybe years, I meant it.